She-Hulk. I finally finished it in about 2 days. And I have to say, it's not that bad. I am genuinely shocked by how much better it actually was than what I was expecting. Same old song and dance, the backlash. I distanced myself from the show because I thought it wasn't going to be good, and I didn't feel like talking about it because of how much people were complaining about it, and I just got one thing to say to those people who were calling it woke propaganda.
Shut up.
Promise I'm not going to keep bringing stuff like that up, but frankly, it really drives me up the wall. Marvel once again continues to delve into the obscure parts of their universe. She-Hulk, hardcore comic book fans would know who she is. I had heard about her a long time ago, but I've never really looked into her much. When I think of the Hulk, I obviously think of Bruce Banner. But She-Hulk? Probably better suited for a television show. Tatiana Maslany plays Jennifer Walters, who's a district attorney in California. And then when something happens after she becomes She-Hulk and she gets into a confrontation in the courtroom, she gets hired by a law firm that deals in superheroic activities, or anything superhuman related. Which in this world I would think makes sense, because the normal justice system would have to adapt to something like the Avengers or Spider-Man or anything from the outside world or the outside universe. And it's basically a 9-part series of how Jennifer manages to accept help from other people while being very arrogant and closed off and not really willing to let anybody inside her wall and just ignoring every single consequence that might come her way, despite the many warnings from her cousin Bruce. As I said, I knew who She-Hulk was, I knew the name, but I never really looked into her much. I thought about doing an episode-by-episode video, but I wanted to try to soak it all in and just get it all out of the way, because if I felt like I did that, it would have taken a lot longer for me to digest everything, but in this case, I'm giving my general thoughts. I don't know if I would go back and watch it again. Maybe if she were to show up in a later movie, which I would not be shocked if she did. There were some really odd choices that were made in this show. The musical choices, breaking of the fourth wall, kind of like what Deadpool was. It made sense in Deadpool because Deadpool is known to break the fourth wall to the audience. But the first time Jennifer does it in the pilot episode, admittedly I was caught off guard. When she just turned right towards the camera and started talking, I thought, what the hell? And then I realized what the show was going for. It's very self-aware, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, if that's the right way to describe it. It almost feels like a live-action Saturday morning cartoon. Since Marvel has been known to embrace its weirdness, in the case of the recent Phase 4 stuff, which have for the most part been very serious, with some moments of levity sprinkled throughout, full-blown, unapologetic campiness, with some serious moments sprinkled throughout. Kind of like the early 2000s with the Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Does it always stick the landing? Not quite. Not just with the soundtrack, but also some of the humor is not quite my style. Particularly that one character who gets caught in that other dimension. She's really drunk and she makes friends with Wong over watching The Sopranos show, or that show, what's that called? This Is Us. My sister's a diehard fan of that show, and if I forgot that, if you're somehow watching this, sis, I am so sorry.
At first it was fun, then scary, then fun again, then spooky. Wongers.
Okay. No, stop. Yeah, stop. Meanwhile, that one character who was rejected by the Carmitage, who puts on that fake show and causes all those demons to come out by accident. When I looked at him, I thought, oh, we got an Oscar Isaac wannabe over here. Moments like that where it lets you know that this is the MCU, where it's really out there and fantastical. The show overall is a legal dramedy, as I like to call it. Various cases throughout each episode, like with that Tatiana, who copyrights the name She-Hulk for her perfume line, and Jennifer has to get that ownership back. Then there's Captain Leapfrog, who uses jet fuel for his rocket boots, fails miserably. His designer happens to be the same person who designs Jennifer's clothing for her to fit both as Jennifer and She-Hulk. His lawyer turns out to be Matt Murdock, also known as the Daredevil. More on that later. Amidst all the wacky zaniness, there's a lot of things that Marvel fans will come away with a big smile on their face. As far as the title character, Jennifer, played by Tatiana Maslany, I promise I really tried. Her performance in the show is very quirky and weird, but somehow very human. To be honest, it's actually kind of refreshing. I like Black Widow, I like Captain Marvel, and I like Gamora. Those women are mostly stoic and serious, and eventually they become a little bit more humanized. Jennifer is a normal person right off the bat, and she pretty much ignores all the possible consequences that are gonna come her way. Bruce warns her multiple times after she gets into that accident and she scrapes herself and the gamma radiation from his body seeps onto her blood and she becomes She-Hulk. He warns her of the obvious double-life superhero consequences that will come her way, which we've all seen in countless comic book films all the time. She becomes famous on the news throughout the country and throughout the world. A group of armed men decide to tackle her and take her blood. It's someone who she gets to know and dates at one of her friend's weddings, manages to get in bed with her, steals her blood, hacks her phone, and causes a sex tape, which makes her look really bad, and she hulks out and goes into a rage, which makes her look really bad in front of the whole world. But before that, while she's waiting for a text from that guy, she meets this self-help group that's run by Emil Blonsky, played by Tim Roth, who is known as the Abomination in The Incredible Hulk. Jennifer learns to let her guard down and let other people into her circle so she can get out what she's feeling, and that's another refreshing thing that Marvel has been able to do as of late in Phase 4. Not to say that they haven't done it before, but with a character like Jennifer, it's really refreshing to see a human person who puts on this brave facade, just wants to have a normal life and acts like nothing's wrong, but deep down she's struggling to accept the fact that she is this super heroine or superhero. I don't know if that's politically correct or not. I apologize. But in that moment, she learns that it's okay to have other people come in and help you. She was also initially hesitant to let her coworkers, her friends at work, come help her out on her legal issues. On top of that, all the guys that she dates as the She-Hulk, they're all enamored by her, but then when they see her as Jennifer, they're not interested. Especially that one guy who looks like he could have been in the Fast and Furious movies, like Jason Statham's stunt double. Really genuinely good person, but the moment she came out as Jennifer, I thought, it's done. He's not gonna go for it. But things do get better when she meets Matt Murdock. Which, on that note, I was so happy to see Charlie Cox return once again. Seeing him in No Way Home was a huge joy. And to see him in the show, oh my god. I didn't think he was going to be able to meld with the show's tone because he came from a very serious, dark, and gritty series. And in this one, where it's more wacky and zany, somehow he managed to fit perfectly in the tone that they set up. His costume looks fantastic. Mostly red with a tinge of yellow mustard color on his mask. Very much a nod to his comic book counterpart from the 60s. All the scenes that he has with Jennifer, absolutely perfect. I wish that there was more of him, and I get it, they gotta wait for the Daredevil series to come out in a few years, but man, so glad that Marvel listened to us, because Charlie Cox is too good to pass up. And one of the best parts with him is that he's actually accepted by Jennifer's family, and they're all grilling him about his job and how much money he makes. This show could have easily had so many cameos left and right. I was expecting Bruce/Professor Hulk to be throughout this entire series, but he wasn't. Only in there for probably like 3 episodes, 1 and 2, and the final episode. Emil Blonsky had a supporting part, but one that actually serviced what was going on in the story. Same thing for Daredevil. His appearance in the show made sense. It wasn't fan service just for the sake of the studio going, love us fans, love us, we got this person and that person. No, it actually made sense for Jennifer's overall story arc for her to experience. Matt's conversation with Jennifer, she expresses that She-Hulk will benefit society when society fails them, or something or other. What she said, I don't really know, I can't remember. But that conversation is very crucial for her in order to accept herself as the She-Hulk, because initially she doesn't want anything to do with it. She doesn't even like being called She-Hulk. But over the course of the series, she gradually starts to become more accepting of it, and her conversation with Matt, as I said earlier, really helps her accept that for herself. And Emil Blonsky helps out with that too. But I think Matt Murdock's conversation with her is the real crux of her change. And then we get to the season finale, which gets really odd. She discovers that the person who set her up was this really creepy guy, Todd or Toby. I guess it was pretty obvious that he was creating this group of guys who hates the fact that women are superheroes or Avenger-like people or something. But I got no problem with women being superheroes, but make your own. Which that, by the way, when they showed those video clips on social media of YouTubers that are very similar to Geeks and Gamers and some other guys like that, that was really clever. I know I said I wasn't going to bring that up again, but in this case I kind of have to. I guarantee you that Geeks and Gamers probably flipped out over that, but still, I actually found that very satisfying. And at this point, Jennifer's got that ankle bracelet on. She can't turn into the She-Hulk or she'll go to prison. But then he uses her blood in order to turn into that Green Hulk. And then Bruce shows up, and Emil Blonsky's the Abomination, violating his parole. Then all of a sudden it goes to the home screen of Disney+. Jennifer as She-Hulk pops her head through one of the She-Hulk logos, swings right through. I thought for a second that my streaming service glitched. But then when I heard the knock and her muffled voice, I thought, no way. What? And then she goes to Marvel Studios looking for Kevin Feige, and then meets Kevin, who is an artificial intelligence robot creating the overall narrative of the MCU. I thought for sure that Kevin Feige was going to show up, but then when I saw the robot, I thought, oh, Of course, that would have been too easy. And that whole sequence where they're talking about how every superhero story has to have a really big, gigantic, climactic battle. But she talks about how, hey, Tony Stark's got daddy issues. Thor's got daddy issues. Loki, same dad, daddy issues. When's the X-Men happening? And all the other stuff that she says, that is so meta, and just like No Way Home in one specific way, where it addresses all the common fan arguments and complaints that they have with the movies. It's poking fun at it while also acknowledging the fans that are watching it for so long. And then she gets to make the choice of what she wants to happen. She wants it to be daytime instead of nighttime. She wants everything to be resolved and Daredevil to show up. And we don't really get a big resolution kind of fight, which I guess you could say is kind of refreshing in a way, but also it's like, well, wait a minute. It doesn't really feel earned then if there's no big fight. Or something. You know, something to make us feel, yes! Yes, this is it! It just glosses right over it. I feel like it was kind of a missed opportunity there. Up until Deadpool 3, we'll see how that goes, but this is probably the closest we'll ever see, as of right now, to a fourth wall breaking type of story. There's a whole lot more that I could talk about, like Wong showing up and acknowledging that he helped the Abomination break out of prison, his obsession with The Sopranos, where the fact that Wong is so serious, I think that he's actually into that kind of stuff, and sentimental stuff like This Is Us. Hard-boiled eggs are really soft underneath. Just saying. Oh, and that mid-credit scene where Megan Thee Stallion and She-Hulk are doing that twerking routine. I've seen worse in other movies, guys.
Much, much worse.
That is nothing. That is nothing. Please, please, cool your jets, okay? Oh, and the fact that Hulk has a son. Who did he did the you-know-what with in order for that to happen? Maybe we'll see it in another movie somewhere down the line. Which I also kind of like that Jennifer said, no, we don't need Hulk. Save that for the movie. I guess we'll find out eventually, if anything. Yeah, so these are my general thoughts on the She-Hulk series. I thought it was a really fun and wild ride in many respects. Not a great show. Not at all. But not a disaster either. I think for what it was trying to achieve, I'd say it's fairly good for what it wanted to accomplish. Would I watch it again? Probably not. Or maybe I will just to get caught up if she, like I said, shows up in another movie somewhere down the line. But it's not an awful show by any means, guys. There is so much worse out there. So much worse. And it's a lot better than some people are claiming it is. I say that about a lot of shows and movies, but if that's how I feel, that's how I feel. I feel the same way about Thor: Love and Thunder. Come at me. So those are my thoughts on She-Hulk. What are your guys' thoughts on the show if you've seen it? Comment below and tell me what they are, and I'll see you in the next one.